Hi everyone, welcome to the Symmetries Analytics channel. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a step-by-step demo on how to use Azure Data Factory to move a CSV file from one folder to another within the same Azure Storage account. So we'll cover three key components. First one, link service to connect ADF to our storage account. Second, dataset to define the input and output file structures. Third, pipeline to copy the data from the source folder to the destination. So this is a perfect beginner-friendly example to understand the basic building blocks of Azure Data Factory. So if you are just starting out with ADF or looking for a hands-on use case, you are in the right place. So let's get started. So in this subscription, we already have deployed Azure Data Factory instance, storage account, Key Vault. Um, so let's first go to the storage account and see how the folder structure is created. So this is our storage account where if you go to the left hand side section, there are several options here. So under data storage, we can go to containers. So we already created one container named sim container 01. Inside this container, we have created two folders as source and target. You can name it with any name. So these are just folders as we see on our, Windows C drive hard disk, right? So this is basically a cloud storage where um, we have this folder creation facility available. So inside the source folder, we have created one sample file as test2.csv. So this is like a comma separated file. And in the target folder, we don't have any file. So using Data Factory, we'll copy the test2.csv file to the target folder. Now, in an ideal production environment, there could be different storage accounts. So you can create different link services for your source and target destinations. So for now, we just need one link service because our both the source and target folders are in the same storage account. So we just need a one link service. So let's launch the Azure Data Factory instance. So one prerequisite to copy the file from one folder to another using this data factory is once you create this data factory, this data factory itself gets one ID, which is called as Manage Identity Application ID. So this is nothing but your system assigned managed identity. That means in Azure, let's say there are 100 data factories with the same name, or maybe I don't think the data factory with the same name is allowed, but let's say if there are 100 data factories, you can uniquely identify those data factories using this managed identity application ID. This is like a system generated ID. So we have to give access to this ADF on this storage account so that it can connect to this storage account and do the file read or copy operations. So for that, Azure provides RBAC roles, which is basically a role-based access control. So in order to have ADF all the permissions to copy or read files from the storage account, we have to give this RBAC role. This is like storage count blob contributor role. So storage account blob contributor role gives ADF permission to copy or read and write files from the storage account. So this is the prerequisite. So we have already given this permission to ADF. So if you come here and let's say go to access control, and if you just click on check access, like which resource or which user has access to his this storage account. can just say, because since we are connecting to the storage account using manage entity, so we'll just see like which manage entity is there. So by default, it has listed the data factory here, and then once we click on that, you can see that this data factory that we have here, right? This data factory has storage blob data contributor role that allows for read, write, and delete access to storage blob containers. So this access is required, otherwise the ADF won't be able to connect to the storage and do the file copy or other operations. Okay, so that access is already given. So let's launch the Azure Data Factory, which is like the one of the best ETL tools that Microsoft has provided in the Azure cloud. So once you launch the instance, on the left hand side there are several options like author, monitor, manage, right? As you can see, there are no pipelines or datasets created. So let's start the deployment or publishing different components. So initially, you can go to link services where we'll click on create new. Then for connecting to the storage account, we'll say Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Continue. Then while creating the link service, you have the option to do the test connection here before actually creating it. But to enable this option, we need to make this interactive authoring option enabled. So just click on edit interactive authoring and then click on enable, apply. So it will take few seconds. So in the meantime, we'll set up the authentication type. So there are several options you can connect to it, but then um, few minutes back we just assigned the ADF role storage blob account contributor. So we use the system assigned manage identity on the RBAC role. So we'll just use this one here. You can use any other option, but the mostly used option is service principal or system assigned managed entity, and you can also use user assigned managed entity as well, but preferred is the system assigned managed entity in most production environments. Then we need to specify which storage account we want to connect. So now we just have one subscription here, but there can be different subscriptions. For example, if you are connecting to some other subscription for some other application, which is your upstream or your downstream, then you can specify their subscription here. And then within the subscription, if there are, let's say, 10 different storage accounts, you'll get the list of all those, but currently we have just one. We are not using a managed private endpoint here. Ideally, this is how you should connect to the storage in any production environment, but for the sake of demo, we are not using this option. This is basically a private connection between your ADF and storage account over the VPN. But for now, we'll just skip this. And by default, it displays the managed entity name and this managed identity object. So this is the same global unique identifier ID, right, which is like a GUID that we call. So we have used this GUID to, while providing the access RBAC, the RBAC role that we provided this data factory. And then we'll click on test connection now. So since the RBAC role was already given, I don't think we should face any connectivity issue here. But let's say if you or if it did not assign the RBAC role, then it would say connection failed because the ADF might not have permission to connect to the storage account. So it's taking some time. Yeah, so there we go, connection successful. That means it was able to test the connection from ADF to storage account. So we'll just go ahead and say create. If you want to give a different name, um, you can just name it accordingly, but for now I'll just say Azure Data Lake Storage 1. I'll say create, and then after creating it, it's not published yet, so we have to publish it. So it will take few seconds for publishing the changes. Okay, it's also done. We can click on refresh. Now there are no data sets related to this link service that we created. So the next step is to go here in the author section and then click on new dataset. Again, I want to have a dataset for Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. Continue. Then there are different file options that I can select here. So for this demo, we'll just select CSV, which is like a delimited text file that we want to copy. Continue. Say sim CSV dataset, and we want to this link service here. Now we want to keep this dataset as dynamic. That means it should, or it can be used for any CSV file that we need to copy. So these three options will keep it as it is for now, but later on we'll just parameterize it. So it has created this temporary dataset here. We haven't published the changes yet. So now what we'll do is, for specifying the uh, file system directories file name, let's not keep it static. We'll just keep it parameterized so that this dataset can be used with different pipelines where we need to copy the CSV. So in the system, there will be only one CSV dataset associated with this storage. And let's say if you have different storage, then you have to also parameterize the link service as well. So I'll just add three parameters. One, two, three. First one is container. Second one is the directory. Third one is file name. And then here I'll just say a dynamic content. I'll select container and directory. Just say directory, and then in file name I'll say file name. So with these options we have created a very dynamic data set. That means during the runtime we can pass any container name, any directory, any file name to this dataset. Now there are different options here like compression type, column delimiter. So for now I'll just keep as comma, but there are different delimiters that you can select like semicolon, pipe, tab, and then encoding. If you want to keep it as UTF-8 or any other encoding, you can select accordingly. Then first row is header. That means the file will always, the first record will be considered or should be considered as header. So, and then schema I'll just keep for now, and parameters we already added, and we've already given this a name as sim CSV dataset. I'll publish this change. So it will take few seconds for publishing. Okay, it's done. Let's refresh it. Okay, so now we have created, so far we created a link service, then we created a data set where we specified like what would be the type of the file, and this data set should use which link service to connect to the source. Now the last step is to create a pipeline. Let's say new pipeline. Now once you click on the pipeline option, there are several activities here or several options that we get. If you want to move or transform data, if you want to run a Synapse job, if you want to execute Azure function or batch service, Databricks notebook, Python code, machine learning, Power Query, or if you want to apply certain conditions here, like if you want to filter the data, if you want to apply a for loop, or if condition, or switch, or until loop. So all options are available. For this demo, we will just use the copy activity. So you can just drag and drop this copy data here. Now you get different options here that we'll see one by one. So we can just first name this pipeline as sim data copy pipe 01. So this is the name of the pipeline, and within the pipeline you can have several activities. So this activity we can say copy CSV file, then we'll go to source. Now it will ask me a source data set, so I'll just say the sim CSV dataset that we recently created. Now this is where you can parameterize this again. Since we parameterize the dataset, it is asking like which container, directory, and file name you want to copy file from, which is the source. Even in the sync, we want to, you know, copy to a CSV file only. So that's why we are selecting the same dataset. Okay. Now in the container, I'll just copy the name of the container that we have. So this is our sim container 01. Directory, I'll say source. This is like a folder name, and file name. So file name, we can either hard code here, or if you want to keep it dynamic, again you can have parameter for this pipeline as well. So I'll just go to pipeline for the, sorry, parameter for the same pipeline. I'll say input file name and output file name. This is again optional, but you can parameterize it. Data type will be string, default value none. And then once you click on the activity here on the source, you will say add dynamic content, read the input file name from the parameter that I will provide. In the sync, same options because we are copying to the same container but different folder. And then file name, I'll say add dynamic content, output file name. Mapping I'll skip because I don't want to have any mapping as of now. I just want to copy the file as it is, as file path in dataset, and no other user properties. If your file is very big, then you can have parallel execution of the copy, where your records will be copied in chunks parallelly. So you have to specify this option, but it takes the pricing and other factors are impacted due to this. So we'll just say auto for now. And you can also specify degree of copy parallelism. So you can again specify how much you want to set this, but for now I'll just say auto. Then once we have all the options set here, um, we'll just say publish all changes. So it's publishing, it's done. So we'll just refresh it once. Okay, now let's go to the st storage account. So we have test2.csv here, and in the target we don't have any file, so let's copy. So to run this pipeline, we'll just say trigger now. So here you can either schedule this pipeline to run daily, weekly, hourly, monthly, or you can say trigger now. So for now, we'll just trigger it now. So you can see that whatever parameters we had set, it's asking like what is the input file name that you want to copy, and what is the output file name. So input file name is test2.csv, and output file name is, let's say I want to keep it as test3.csv. Okay, so I'll just say okay. So now based on our setup or definition, it will pick test2.csv from the source folder, and then it will copy the file. uh, it will rename the file, or while writing the new file it will say test3.csv in the target folder. So let's see whether it has started running. So it started running. You can see the parameter options here, like using which or what parameters the pipeline ran. Go inside the activity pipeline here, and you can see that it's still in queue status. That means it's not getting the required resource to execute. So let's wait for some more seconds. Sometimes it takes time for the pipeline to start execution. So yeah, I think it's already done. So here, if you refresh, go into the pipeline, then click on the details button, you'll see that it has read one file. It will also explain like how many DIUs used, any parallel copies, it says one, then file return one, number of bytes written. And let's say if we had set up the mapping part, then it would have given us the number of records as well, like how many records were copied. But for now, it's just giving one file return. Now let's verify if the file is here, target. Yeah, so there we go, test3.csv. And if you click on edit, you can see sample file, content, and then let's see if the source had the same content. Yeah, so sample file is there. So this is how we can use the Azure Data Factory link service and dataset to copy data from one source to another. Now there can be different types of link services like Azure Blob Storage or Azure SQL DB. Um, as you can see here, when you create a link service, you can specify different options, right? Azure database for MySQL, Key Vault, Synapse Analytics, DB2, Dynamics 365, and several other datasets. So Data Factory is one of the good, or I would say one of the best ETL tools available in the market today. So, so that is how you can use it. So that's all for today's session. Thank you for joining and watching this video. And you can subscribe for more videos like this on the Azure Data Factory and Databricks. And we would be covering the OpenAI related topics as well. Thanks, everyone.